What is up, everyone? It is Jessica, and today I'm going to share a declutter with you guys. I'm going to declutter my palette drawer back here. I'm going to share my favorites, my least favorites, etc. Obviously, right now we're going through a really tumultuous time, so I have shared a lot of links and resources on ways we all can help to help things change, and that is on my Instagram, which is at It's Jessica Braun. I have created a highlight there where you can see everything I've shared this week. Really, all I need to say is that I'm going to do my best to learn. I'm going to be reading books. I'm going to be watching documentaries and listening to those that are experiencing this, because I will never know what that's like. And that is a privilege to not. And so knowing that is half the battle, but the other half is obviously actually making change. So not only will I leave those links and resources on my Instagram, but I will put some of my favorite resources down below if you want to help, but you just don't know where to begin. I know that's how I felt, and I know that's how plenty of people feel. They want to help. They're on the same side, but they just don't really know where to start. So I'll have that down in the description box for your guys' reference. So not only learning about it, but of course donating to programs and coalitions that are actually working to make big change. And of course, voting. Get out and vote. Vote for the people that you know are going to make the right decisions when it comes to this kind of stuff. So those are the things I'm working on. So definitely check out those links and resources if you need it. So with all of this going on, I really struggled with figuring out, well, what do I want to film this week that doesn't feel weird? And so I finally landed on doing a declutter. It's been a very long time. This has been a video type that I've done for years on my channel. I can link my entire playlist up in the eye and down below if you just are in a decluttering mood. I have gone through times where I've decluttered, 80% of my collection, actually pretty recently, times where I don't get rid of as much, and I go through hills and valleys like anyone. The reason I've not decluttered in a long time this way is because I got a lot of heat for, why are you decluttering just to reclutter? Keep in mind that part of my job here on YouTube and part of what I love to do is try out and review makeup. And so that's never gonna stop, but what I did do, the change I did make was I removed myself from probably 85, maybe even 90% of the PR list I was on, because one of the problems was I was getting too much in PR. I couldn't wade through it fast enough. My collection would grow and I wasn't really using it. So that helped a ton. And so that forced me to pick out and actually purchase things that I personally am interested in trying. I just said a lot of That has made a huge change for me where, you'll see my collection has grown since the last time I decluttered, but not in the exponential way it typically does. And so that's exciting to me. That also means that there might not be as much that I'm getting rid of this time. I don't know. I haven't decluttered it yet, so I'm gonna find out with you how much I actually get rid of today. Let me show you where I keep my palettes. So here is where I keep all of my palettes in this dresser drawer where I keep my makeup collection. Here's the thing. I don't use a lot of palettes. That's my reality. I use mostly smaller ones, I guess I should say. I'm excited to go through this, really weed out what I'm not using, share some products I'm loving, share some that I'm not, that I'm obviously going to get rid of and why. So I'm going to pull everything out of there, and I guess I'll probably put it on the ground, old school style. I used to do it this way, and really have you guys zoomed in. But I did want to mention, I recently did a video all about my palettes, the best, the worst. I don't talk about every single thing I have, so the video today is way more exhaustive when it comes to my collection. But in that one, I kind of share my oldest palette, my newest palette, the palette that I use every day, those kinds of things. So if you're interested in that, definitely check it out. I can link it above and below, but let's declutter these palettes. Wow, so these are all of them. Obviously, some of these are they need to be consolidated and stuff. Counting palettes and quads and stuff, but not counting these kinds of refillable ones and not counting that one, we've got 34. If you've seen my old declutters, I got rid of a lot, and it obviously has grown quite a bit. So. All right, so let's just start here. This is this Laura Mercier what is it called? Parisian Nudes eyeshadow palette. It's just okay, but I have not found myself reaching for it very much. It's got some nice neutrals in it. You can see some shimmers, but I've only used it a handful of times and I was never really impressed. I thought the shadow quality was fine. It was kind of a thinner formula, which I don't mind, but none of these, the colors I like well enough, but none of them are pulling me in to die to use this all the time. So It's a really pretty palette. It's really well made, but I'm gonna pass this on. This one was sent to me in PR. You guys know I love these two ELF quads. My favorite is Rosewater. I'm definitely keeping it. It's just this absolutely gorgeous palette, and I just love these. They're so inexpensive, and I think they're pretty darn good quality. This one I'm a little torn on. It's from Buxom, and again, this was sent in PR actually a very long time ago. These are their little customizable eyeshadow palettes, and these just happen to be the colors they'd sent like in the PR package. And I don't know, I just don't feel like these are, like I kind of like this color here, but like I know myself, I'm not going to use those. That's a little too yellow for me. So I can't decide if I want to keep the palette and just get rid of the colors or just get rid of it altogether. But because I do like the idea of like customizable palettes, I'm thinking about keeping the one color I think I'll use, and then maybe eventually when Sephora has a sale or something, I'll get shades I actually would use within that. So I think I might keep the case and that one shade. This is a palette from Colourpop. I've only played with once or twice, but I just have so many other palettes similar, and the shimmers in this, like especially this middle one, but it's Colourpop's like chunky glitter, and I just don't like that. Who did I hear? I think I heard Andrea Mattiliano talking about that, and I was like, yes, she nailed it. It's like they're chunky glitter shadows that I just can't get on board with. I have fallout all over my face when I use it. And so other than that, like this is the other shade I would use, but I have that in a million palettes. So I think this is pretty, and I really do like Colourpop's shadow formula. We'll talk more about that in a sec, but this is just one that I'm not dying to use, so I'd rather pass it on while it's still pretty new to a sister or someone. I talked about this one recently, this Kylie Jenner palette. My biggest gripe with this right off the bat is the fact that it doesn't have what the palette is written anywhere on here. I'm like, how did they not think that through? Like, I just think that's, I don't know. I don't know why that bothers me so much, but it does. I know I'm being petty and weird about it. Okay. I like the color scheme, but I feel like these are overpriced, and I really have not gotten any look from this that I couldn't get with something else. And so because I'm not reaching for it, and because I just think the brand is so overpriced for what it is, and that makes me not really want to like share about it on my platform very much. I go back and forth with this, but I just don't think it's worth it, and I think I'm gonna pass it on. Kind of one of those things that I felt like guilty. Every time I see it, I feel guilty for buying it. I knew in my heart of hearts I probably wouldn't end up liking it, and that it'd be overpriced for what it was, but I bought it anyway, and I shouldn't have. That's all. It's a great angle. This is one that's limited edition. It's one of my absolute favorites from MAC. It was like a Boom Boom Bloom collection they had a couple years ago. I think this, I can't find this shimmer quality in like single MAC shadows. I don't know what was different about this, but this palette is incredible. Definite keep. I travel with this all the time. Another favorite of mine is this M Cosmetics Divine Skies palette. I just love this. The colors are absolutely gorgeous. I use every color in this, and I think the packaging is pretty. Oh my gosh. This is one that I do think is good quality, but it's just not something I'm ever reaching for. The shimmers, let me swatch. I wasn't gonna swatch a ton because I feel like so many eyeshadow palettes are so similar. So unless they're blatantly bad, I don't feel like swatches are that necessary anymore. I don't know. I mean, they are if you're thinking about, okay, Jessica, you're going around in circles. Anyway, look at that. The shimmers are gorgeous, but I just don't really use this. And the mattes are kind of interesting. They almost feel creamy, like wet, like almost like a cream, which is pretty rare. So it's a cool palette, but I never get like a complete look out of it the way I want to. So I would recommend it if you love the colors, but I just myself am not using it much. And of course, as I'm looking at those swatches, I'm thinking, well, maybe I'll keep it. I'm like, Jessica, no, you haven't reached for it in months. This is a newer one to me from Maybelline. It's Sunlit Bronze, and it's so beautiful. And I bought it because it reminds me of my favorite Charlotte Tilbury Quad in Pillow Talk. I know obviously they're not the exact same, especially looking at those two shades there. They're just very similar finish look. So I actually am wearing this today, this Maybelline quad. So definitely keeping this, really enjoying it. I can tell you right now, this quad, I know they're so expensive, and I've bought another Charlotte Tilbury quad and I hated it. I hated it, and I was so mad. For whatever reason, I was drawn to buy this one a while back, and I fell in love with it. If you're fair like I am, these colors, they blend so seamlessly and easily, and obviously I love this shade, and then this is like more of a glitter topper. So I love it. So enjoying both of them. This is a personal favorite of mine, the Colourpop Going Coconuts. There's so many color schemes. So once you find a color scheme you like, pretty much all of them are pretty darn good across the board quality-wise. So Love the shade Cocoa Crush. The only one I really don't use is Palm Reader, and really I don't use Get Crackin' that much. There's a little bit of glitter in it, and so I don't know. But it's just a great palette. I think the packaging is really pretty too. Things are gonna get dicey really quickly here. I can already feel it. I'm torn about this because I bought this pretty recently, like a year or two ago in Ireland. We were there with friends. It was so much fun, and I bought it like at a little Inglot store there. I don't really know why I picked these shades. I thought that'd be a good blending shade. I thought a black for liner and brown maybe for liner too, and then a blending beige shade, but I kind of wish I had gotten some shimmers. So part of me is like, well, maybe I'll still keep this, but if I'm ever in an Inglot again, maybe replace this one with like a nice shimmer and then use that for liner or something like that. So I'm gonna keep this for memory's sake and perhaps to adjust it eventually. This one I've actually never even touched. It's the Colourpop Blush Crush. I think I'm still on their PR list even though I've asked to be removed. I think they might have finally removed me. Part of me now looking at it, I'm like, I would love this shade. It's gonna be similar to the Charlotte Tilbury. So perhaps I will give this a try since I haven't given it like any love at all. And especially now, let me just swatch it. Looking at that shade, oh my gosh. Okay, yeah. So never mind, I'm gonna give this one a try. I genuinely thought I was gonna pass it on, but I'm gonna give this bad boy a go. I need to put it like in my vanity, you know? This is one I actually just talked about being my most colorful palette. My only gripe with this, and I don't remember if I mentioned this in that palette best and worst video I was mentioning earlier, is that the shimmers are so shimmery that it's almost too much for my taste. I can't explain it other than that. So I kind of want to play with this a little bit more, especially since it's getting to be summer and this is such a summery palette. Let me make a little maybe pile. That's gonna be in the maybe. And you know what? The buxom thing I'm gonna put in the maybe pile too. The Biba palette. I have tried to love this. Again, this was PR. So I would never, and I will never condone spending this amount of money on a palette. I'm sorry. There are too many really good ones, even at the $50 price point, but there's even really good ones like at the Colourpop price point. It's just so expensive. And I think she has started to come down in her prices somewhat. I just don't get it. I don't get the hype. I think they blend great, but I also think the same for many other palettes. The shimmers are pretty. There are plenty of shimmers out there. If you're someone that's just super into luxury makeup, I get it. And if that's the way you want to spend your money, go for it. Because it's not that the palette is bad or any of them, but I can't even justify that. So there's a part of me that doesn't want to get rid of it for the obvious reason of it's so expensive. So let me just think about it. It's in the maybe. We'll go through those at the end, I promise. And I know some of you guys are thinking, Jessica, when you put it in the maybe, you end up getting rid of it. We'll see. I might not. I don't know. Okay, I need to stretch my leggies out. So, Persona Identity palette. Definitely going to keep. This is one I've had for quite a while now. Just the shimmers are just that nice. This is what I mean. Okay, maybe this is the perfect comparison. Look at the difference between these shimmers, okay? There's such a big difference between the types of shimmers, and I guess that's what I mean. And so the Persona palette I absolutely love, definitely gonna keep. Blends beautifully, I just love it. This is one I've been holding on to. I might finally pass on. Honestly, I was holding on to it for this shade right here. Kind of a rosy, almost taupey shadow. It is so beautiful. See, I wanna keep it just for that. They sell that color alone. I think it's called Basic Instinct. So this is the NARS Skin Deep palette. It was limited edition, so you guys can't get your hands on it anymore. And frankly, I really only use that color in this. Over time, the more I've used it, I use the gold a little bit too. So I don't know. This one's going in the maybe too. This is turning out to be harder than I thought it would be, you guys. Okay, here's one. The Essence Salute Paris. I'm gonna get rid of this. I actually used some of these colors quite a bit for like single shadow, kind of pinkish looks, but it's just not anything special, I don't think. I love the idea. I think the packaging is pretty, but I'm just not using it very much. I'm torn about so many of these, you guys. Can you tell? There's a lot I am going to keep. I can tell you that right now. I'm definitely going to keep my ELF New Classics palette. I love that. I especially love this bottom row of shades here. There's some really good blending colors there. It's just a great palette. I love it. I'm definitely keeping the Colourpop Double Entendre palette. I was just recently using this in a video. It's such a good palette if you like these kinds of colors. It's got actually a lot of mattes and only a few shimmers. So if you lean that way, there you go. It's definitely a warmer palette, but I really like it. I'm gonna keep it. I'm shocked that I'm keeping 3 Colourpops. I thought for sure I would only keep like 2 of them, but Like I said, I really do want to try that Blush Crush one. Here's one I'm going to get rid of, and I'm actually really sad to get rid of the Physicians Formula Butter Eyeshadow. I think the shadows are pretty good. The one shadow I wanted was this one, and it is a total dud. Like, I've tried scraping it off. I can barely get anything off of that. The rest of them are pretty darn good, but again, that was the one I was going to be using more than anything, and this is why I tend to go more towards singles and quads now, because I end up, even with a neutral palette, there's still plenty of shades I don't use. But like, matte shades are crazy pigmented. So if you're looking into that, I mean, my gosh. And some of the shimmers are really buttery, and that's what I was hoping that that would be, and it wasn't. So the palette itself is good other than the one shade, but it's just not a color scheme I'm wearing all the time. All right, a palette I loved was currently, is the Charlotte Tilbury Darling palette. Again, it's crazy expensive, but it's a color scheme I love. You know what I mean? Just these kind of rosy, peachy shimmers. It's just what I'm into right now. Probably not forever, I don't know, but I really like it. Again, it's pricey. You don't have to spend the money. I really like it. Another drugstore one I love is this Wet n Wild Walking on Eggshells. I think this is fantastic. I love that when they redid these little like trios or whatever you want to call them, that they added a more of a matte color to kind of blend it all together. So love that, keeping that. So I have two of these NARS bad boys, and one is in the shade Suede, this little palette, and the other is in the shade Nectar. I love the Suede one. Clearly, I've used it a ton. I really don't think Nectar, quality-wise, is as good as this. It's kind of more dry. Like, I kind of expected there to just be more, and there wasn't. It was really weird. So I really didn't like Nectar. I'm going to get rid of this one, and I'm going to keep Suede. Obviously, I love it. I think this was my palette I said was underrated. This is the Naked Honey palette. I really think this is good. It's kind of unique. It's got some interesting colors that I really personally don't use, but that are just a little bit unique. If you're fair like I am, a lot of these are really nice to blend with. The shimmers are gorgeous. I really like this HBIC shade. Oh my gosh. It almost looks wet, but it's really, really pretty on the eyes. So I'm going to keep that. It's the only Naked palette I still have. I think I've owned all of them over the years. Yeah, I really like it. I'm torn on a few of these. So this is one I'm definitely keeping, the Violet Voss Holy Grail palette. I've had this for a very long time. I always say that I spilled coffee on it. How many of you guys knew I was going to say that? I know. But I did, and it's like still surviving and thriving, man. So I love this palette. The shimmers are perfect. Cool Beans is like my favorite shade in it. It's just so pretty. Oh my gosh, I just love it. It's definitely a warmer toned palette. Like, there's no doubt. But there's enough tones in it to like mix it up. And I don't really use the reds very often, but I think it's such a good one. One I'm getting rid of, the Too Faced Born This Way Natural Nudes. I was so disappointed. How pretty is this colorway? I thought it would be perfect for me based on what I like. I felt like the mattes were a little bit chalky, and I felt like the shimmers were super chunky and dry, and I would have fallout everywhere. It was nothing like the Too Faced shadow formula I'd gotten used to, like in their chocolate bar palettes. Nothing like it. And could you own it and get some decent looks out of it? I'm sure you can, but I already have plenty that I think work better than this that are the same shade. So I was really, really, really sad I didn't like this. So that one is gonna go. Tati Beauty palette. I have done a video on this long when I first got it. I actually think quality-wise it's great. I don't use the glitters. I just don't. But I think the quality is there. The colors I obviously don't use a lot of. Like, I use a couple of these, a little bit over here. That's pretty much it. So this is going to be a maybe too. This I did not realize was discontinued, and I actually haven't used it in a long time. This is the Anastasia Sultry palette. Definitely a little bit more cool toned, if you will. I loved this, and I loved the Soft Glam. The Soft Glam is still available. The Sultry one is like discontinued. I still really like it. I'm going to keep it for now. For me, I'm not a collector, so I don't love keeping things that you guys can't get, because then I feel like I don't like to use it too often in videos, blah, blah, blah. Perhaps I'll do like a video all about limited edition stuff one day. So I'm going to keep it because I do really, really like it and I personally use it, but let it be known I'm bummed that this is discontinued. All right, I'm kind of on the fence about all of these. The Nude Light by Huda Beauty, I really like the colors. I like the formula, but I just don't really reach for it. There's no reason why. I mean, it's gorgeous. Look at some of these colors. Like, look at that color. Are you kidding me? I don't find myself reaching for this. I think it's, again, the shimmers are very, very almost like iridescent, and I just don't wear that very often. And then the mattes I like, let me think about it. The Smashbox one I got because it reminded me of when I was younger. One of the very first high-end purchases I ever made was like a little Smashbox Try It kit. And it was like 20 bucks and you got like a little eyeshadow trio and maybe like 2 other things. And I used every single shadow in it until it was completely gone. And I haven't done that in so long, like where I use up a whole little thing. So I really haven't used this much and I feel like I should give it a little more love. So I don't want to get rid of this yet. This was not a super old palette at all. So actually this would be a good comparison. I recently tried this by Terry Terribly Paris by Light palette. And I posted about it on Instagram that, you know, this is new to me. I'm trying it out. I don't know that I love the shadow formula as I've used it more. I think there are some pretty shades in it. Like this pink is the one I actually use the most because it gives this really pretty pinkish look, kind of similar to this Huda Beauty one, but a little bit more peachy tone, but very similar. So that's one of those things that makes me think like, well, do I really need both of these, even though they're obviously not the same palette? I'm definitely going to keep the By Terry one. I want to keep messing. I guess my thing is the shimmers are just odd. They're like a different formula. They are thick. They're a thick, but they're pretty once they're on. I can't explain it other than that. I've never really tried a shadow that felt the way these By Terry ones do. So I'm going to keep playing with it. It's actually kind of hard to find. Like when I've tried to link it, I don't know what they're doing with it. So these are all singles that I actually have another one of these in my closet that my friend made for me. So I've got all kinds of single shadows and different palettes all over. I need to just combine. I feel like every time I do these videos, I'm like, I'll deal with that another day, and I never do. But I'm not dealing with them today. That's like a whole hour-long process for me. So now we've got to tackle all these maybes, you guys. Which of these, let me try a little thought process game with myself. Which of these would I miss if it were no longer in my collection? Maybe that's what I should ask myself. So I'm doing a quick Google to see if I can get this NARS single shadow alone. So I can't find that they still sell. I really am thinking about keeping this palette just for that color because I love it so much. But I think I can probably say goodbye to those 3. The Buxom, again, I'm torn on. I know I don't need those shades, but I'm like, am I really gonna go buy Buxom shadows? Probably not. So I'm gonna pass that on. The Tati Beauty one, I think I am going to keep for a while longer. I want to be able to reference it because I do get a lot of questions about like, well, how does this compare to that? I'm going to hold on to this. I think I'm going to hold on to the NARS just because of that darn shade. I could depot it. I know. Some of you guys are probably wanting to comment that. I know. But frankly, that's going to be so much work. I'm just not going to do it. I know myself. All right. So this is everything we're getting rid of. As I kind of look at all this, I don't really feel like there's anything that I'm like, oh no, you know, I want to, there really isn't. I'm not going to miss any of these. Some of these were just duds, but some of them were just ones that, like I said, I just wasn't using. So we're getting rid of 12 palettes. So we cut out maybe a third of my eyeshadow collection. Not bad. And then this is everything I'm keeping. So obviously I am keeping more than I'm getting rid of, but these are all things that make my heart happy. I'm trying to kind of do a quick comb and see if there's anything that I'm like on the fence about. I really don't think so. I feel content with what I'm keeping, and like, there's, you know, like this one I'm obviously kind of just about to try out. I haven't even tried. A couple I'm keeping that are limited edition, but I just can't bear to part with. And then the rest of them I'm genuinely using and I love. So that's a good feeling. I'm literally on my knees right now. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this. I have not done this style of declutter, like I mentioned earlier, in a very long time. And it was very cathartic, very fun to just kind of sit, chill with you guys, go through makeup, talk about makeup. As I'm kind of going through my collection through this next year and sharing, you know, bigger pieces of it. You know, I might go through my lip products soon and talk about my favorites. And then you'll see maybe in that same month a declutter of lip products, because I feel like that's a good way to kind of share about products maybe that I haven't talked about a lot on my channel before I go and declutter it if it's one I didn't like or whatever, or of course, keep it if it's one I did. But if you did enjoy, I hope that you'll subscribe. I've got many more declutter videos to come. And of course, I have quite a repertoire of declutter videos if you are in the mood to watch them. I know I'm weird. I love declutters. I still watch them all the time. It's just something that's weirdly soothing for me to watch. And if I'm being honest, the time that I watch my most YouTube videos, like if I'm getting a bubble bath like once a week, I save declutter videos for then and I freaking watch them, and it's the greatest thing in the world. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Like I said, subscribe. It makes my future videos really easy for you guys to find. And of course, it's free. And I'd love to chat with you guys on my Instagram. It is at It's Jessica Braun, as I mentioned earlier. And I love you all. I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.